Hello, hello. There we go. Right. I'm just remembering how to work everything. Oh, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Good to be back. Thank you to everyone for jumping into the stream. Reese, Reese, Transform, Etty Boys, Abby, hello. Risham, love from India. Dumisani, hello, hello. It's good to be here again. It is indeed. That crazy man, loads of hearts. Hello, Michael, sir. New OP mic cover. Yeah, I know. I I was watching one of Will Patterson's videos, and I think he uses a similar mic. It's like a Shure mic, and I saw this orange cover, and it was like, I gotta Google this. I gotta look this up. Seeing as like my color is orange as well, I was like, I need me that orange cover ordered. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. Like I know it's been like forever. The biggest thing was like moving out of the old studio, and I handed the keys back last Friday, I want to say. And it's been like just trying to get everything kind of moved out, get the old place kind of cleaned up, painted, just looking nice. Keys handed back, getting this place set up, but still doing videos and what have you. It's just been mental. But yeah, I think it's fair to say it kind of looks all right now. We got it to a pretty good place. So oh yeah, I've got to remember I've got the chat over here now as well. But yeah, oh yeah, it's good to be back. And something else that I'm trying to do with these streams as well. I think I might have mentioned before that I was looking to work with a video editor, and I'm chatting to someone at the moment, and we're figuring out different ways we can kind of edit content and cut content together. And something we've talked about is maybe structuring these streams a bit more with a bit more of a purpose and a focus. And then I can take these big long 2 hour streams we do and then cut that into more content, like short form stuff. Because I know not everyone wants to sit and watch 2 hours. And there's loads of people I follow on YouTube who they bang out like an hour, 2 hour long streams. I ain't got time to sit and watch that, but I'll watch their 2 minute videos. So yeah, I want to try and kind of basically milk milk the content that I put out, and that we have, the stuff we have a laugh with in the streams. Just take all of that time that goes into this, and then kind of repackage it for short form or maybe even videos. I don't know, because I love doing the streams and they're a lot of fun. So why not? Hello, I'm a designer from Cambodia. I learn a lot from your videos. Oh, awesome. Hey, Mike. Hey, I was worried you may have passed away. Now I can stop reading the abyss. Sorry, Mike. No, I'm still live and kicking. Live to fight another day. I mean, it's been pretty stressful, I'll be honest, but it's not been that stressful. I'm not in the ground yet, sir. Oh, funny. Oh, that's good. Yeah, so what we're going to do today is I'm actually recording this as well. So I've got something prepped that we'll start with, but honestly, if you've got questions about design, you'd like a tool demonstrated in Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever it is, honestly, just fire it into the chat. I'm going to try and just kind of be as useful as I can. And then later on, I can just look at the stream footage and maybe see if I can cut it together into something useful. So if you have questions, tools you'd like demonstrated, just yeah, let me know. Aditya, do you also believe as a brand designer we should learn everything like UI design, packaging design too, with basic branding? I think it's difficult. The landscape's changed so much in design, and it still continuously is evolving. And I think you can specialize in one thing, and you can kind of really kind of drill down into that. But it doesn't hurt to dip your toes into other areas as well. So yeah, it depends what you do. Like I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'm obsessed with doing everything, and as a YouTuber you kind of have to learn how to video edit and learn all this other stuff beyond just what you'd normally do. But like if you were a graphic designer, for example, I'd say there's no harm in just kind of dipping into After Effects, or maybe kind of branching out into a bit of graphic design you don't normally do. Like when I used to do it back in the day, it was predominantly print stuff: flyers, brochures, business cards, magazines, that kind of stuff. Didn't do a lot of packaging and a lot of like merchandise related things, clothing, that sort of stuff. So, you know, yeah, maybe looking back, I could have branched out more and done more of that stuff. What's your design plan for today? I've got a very loose plan, but we're gonna wing it as always. Although I'm not averse to, as I said, a bit more structure in future. Hey Raquel, good to see you. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it as well. You know, if you can collaborate with other people or work with other people in different fields, yeah, you can learn a lot. Like when I used to work for a company, I would learn quite a lot working with other designers. Um, just because, you know, some I might be sat next to someone with 20 years experience, and there's me with kind of less than half that, and you do sort of pick up things, you know. Hmm. Right. Okay. Let's do something. By the way, let me know if the audio or anything is terrible. I think the stream should be in a higher quality as well now. So fingers crossed everything goes well. Okay, so someone submitted this logo a little while ago, and it's meant to say Chess Whiz. We'll come back to that in a minute, especially this top one here. There's a couple of versions, and the reason this one stood out to me is there's some things that I think are done well, and there's some things that are really, well, let's just say they could definitely use some improvement. But the thing that I like about this kind of stuff is that to get to a win is so easy. It's not they're almost there. You know, they've got the character's looking great. The win isn't that far away, but there's some especially egregious mistakes that I think have been made that make this not as effective as it could be. So what I'm going to do is I mean, it doesn't really make a difference which one we start with. I'll get rid of that one. I just wanted to show you that with the lightning there. We'll focus on this one here. So you can see we've got this little character. I'm not sure where that came from. Let's ungroup everything. Yeah, I think that's one solid object. So that might have been sourced from somewhere online. It might have been created. I don't know. But I think it's cute. Cute little character. I think it's meant to say Chess Whiz. I don't think covering the W was the right way to go, because he's, I mean, if he was a W shape, maybe, but he's not. So, yeah, it just looks a bit weird. Chess is, I don't know. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is let's just copy this, and I'll show you really quickly how we can get this to a win. So let's just drag him out the way. I think he's on transparency, which is nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just, well, basically get rid of all of this, because apart from the fact that the text, you can see it's not central anyway, which, you know me, is like, that's a problem, okay? The box here isn't doing us any favors either. In terms of the contrast between the grey, the yellow, and the white, it's just not enough, especially at a small size. But we could work with the blue and the yellow. So if we just grab this text and drag this out, and we'll just use the eyedropper tool to sample the blue. Arial, there we go. A little bit lazy, but we can work with that. And let's just get rid of that. Already, I think it's fair to say that that's an improvement. But we could go a step further than this. And what would I do? What would I do? Okay. Well, let's not focus on the font yet. Yeah, we're not going to use Arial. Let's try and get a little bit creative. Whoa, where are you going? Let's get a bit creative with the lettering. See what we can do. Maybe stack this up. The character's quite tall, So rather than have everything tiny, it does kind of make sense. And ideally I need a font now. This little fella's quite playful, so I want something that's rounded. Similar to Arial, rounded. Probably not Arial rounded. So if anyone has any suggestions for fonts that are sans serif, a little bit playful, or something you think would be suitable, do let me know. The audio is not good. Sounds all good here. The audio's a bit low. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let's crank it up. Just got to remember how to crank it up. How does that sound? Is that a little bit louder? Poppins. Poppins, poppins, poppins. Right, let's give that a go. Yeah, yeah, better, definitely better. Got that thicker weight. It'd be nice if it had a slightly kind of more rounded edge to it. But, you know, this is a good start. So already then, because this is stacked, like a double stacked, you know, when I bring that down in size, it's going to look a little bit better and more legible. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. You'll be able to see it. So now I need to try and get a bit more of the character into the text. So let's open up the appearance panel, and I'm going to layer this up from scratch. So the first thing to do is actually get rid of the color and re-add it as a fill. And then you can shift click on the fill color and you get the usual sliders up, so you don't have to just use the swatches. And what I'm going to do now is duplicate this. And where's my color picker? There we go. Let's make that one yellow. And then what I'm going to do is offset this. And we're going to have to see how this works, because it might look terrible, but I'm building it through the appearance panel because then I can still edit the text. So it just keeps everything fully editable. And okay, what else have we got? So we've got black and white. Okay, let's duplicate that again. We'll try a black. And let's transform this. Move the out the way. See if we can get this looking decent. We'll go 0.1 so we don't get like a jagged, staggered drop shadow effect, which would look terrible. And let's try changing that to white. No, that doesn't work. Oh, I wish I could just round off the corners. It would look so much nicer. Poppins is round in lower caps. Ooh, okay. Change case. Ooh, maybe if it wasn't for that eye. Yeah, we'll keep it uppercase for now. So what have we got there? We got blue, black, white. Right, let's switch it around. White, and then maybe a drop shadow. So I wouldn't typically add a drop shadow to a logo, but because this little character has a drop shadow and I don't have him cut out, we're gonna work with this. So we're gonna make it work. Let's bump up the resolution just so we get a better shadow. Right. So there we go. It's got a bit more character. Definitely kind of getting there. In terms of width, let's try making the letters a bit closer. Maybe this, and then the leading. That could work. Could work. Yeah, it just needs a bit more personality. Let's bring that transform down. There we go. So the white is a bit more subtle. We could try and get some yellow in there. Yellow. Just trying to figure out where exactly we put the yellow. Or, unless we separate these into two words. So let's change this to chess whiz. We'll change the chess to yellow. And then bump that up. Yeah, it definitely fits a little bit more. And we were all yellow. Sorry, had a Coldplay moment then. I mean, I think it's fair to say, even if we kind of sling this over here, go on, get out of it. If we were just to kind of put these two side by side, and this is the mascot we're working with, you know, I think it's very clear to see that we've already made some improvements just by mirroring some of the characteristics from the character onto the text. And this is still fully editable as well. So I'm not totally sold on the font. I think it does need to be a bit more rounded. So, oh, there is a rounded font. I think I asked this the other day on stream for a sans serif rounded font, and I can't remember what the damn thing was. Oh. Yeah, that is another option. Gotham rounded. Nice, Ali. Nice. That's not the one I used the other day, but that is a nice font. Gotham rounded. Oh, legend. Oh, maybe it's a bit too rounded. I want something with just slight rounding. So as you said, Dumasani, what you could do is you can convert this to outlines and then round it off like this. But because all of the corners are different, it will round them all at slightly different radiuses, or radii, however you say it. So it's not always an ideal solution. You're going to get a better, more accurate result using a font that has specifically been rounded off. And plus, it's no longer editable when I'm rounding the corners like this. But we can at least sling it in there and then get a good idea of how it could look. So it's a good technique to just kind of quickly mock something up and see how it looks. We got this little fella here. We could even just angle him ever so slightly, just so it kind of matches the angle of that W, which is quite prominent. And yeah, we could even stick him up top. So there is still quite a lot of flexibility. Yeah, so it's not my favorite logo in the world, but as you can see, very quickly we've just kind of taken, I think, probably the worst part of the design, which is the text and the boxes and everything, and the alignment. We very quickly just added a bit more personality to it and turned it into something that kind of has a bit more synergy with the main caricature. Gilroy. Let's have a gander. Oh, I've not got Gilroy. Okie dokie. Gilroy. Ooh, that is lovely. Ooh, yes. Let's go ahead and download that. Hello, Daniel from Nigeria. Antoinetta, greetings from Bulgaria. Hello. Yeah, that is the bad part about outlining, is it won't be editable, yeah. FF Cocon. Yeah, that you could put him on the right hand side. I'm just never a fan of logos with the mark on the right like that. I just, yeah, maybe it's a personal thing, just going from left to right. It might be different in other parts of the world that read from right to left, or certain aspects of text are by default on the right hand side. So it might make sense in other places. But no, it's not for me. Okie dokie. Gilroy. Right. Let's have a look at Gilroy. Does sound a bit Scottish, doesn't it? Oh no, I need the round version. Damn it. I'm going to kick myself if I remember that font later on. There we go. Very quick before and after. And I think it would probably need refining, but yeah, not bad for 5-10 minutes of throwing something together. Okie dokie. Let's do something a bit more interesting. Let's get creative. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? Just so I can later on try and cut something together into some short form content, like little kind of bits and bobs. God, it's been so long since I've done a stream. I'm like trying to remember where all the buttons are. Ah. To convert a stroke to a shape, we use expand, but how do we convert a shape to a path? How do we convert a shape to a path? So if I've got a shape here with a fill. Oh, I think I know what you mean. Someone asked me something similar a while ago. I might have a good example here. Let's use Gilroy. Right now. Okay. Right. So, yeah, I think if you've... Okay, let me just read this again. To convert a stroke to a shape, we use expand, but how do we convert a shape to a path? So typically when you've got a shape with a solid fill, if I go and give this some blue, there we go. What I would do personally is I would just swap the fill and the stroke, and that is now an editable stroke. But one question that someone did ask me a while ago is how could I turn this S that is a fill into a single line stroke that I can then edit? And I don't think there was like a super clean answer, but there's a few different ways that you could do it. So one way that I tried to experiment with, if I there we go. I didn't switch the camera. Duh. Yeah, so one way that I tried to do this was, yeah, if we convert this to outlines and then go to object, path, offset path, and then give this a negative value, which we can't see, which is great. Let's go into outline mode. There we go. Let's try that again. Object, path, offset path, and then bring this down. And you can use command or control to bring it all the way down. What you can do is kind of get to a point where all of the lines meet and then go and delete one side. Now, as you'll see, this isn't a perfect solution because the width of letters can vary. Oops. Oh, I've got two. No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm just being a plum. So let's... Yeah. So there we go. We have an S. It's not perfect all the way around. But if I come out of outline mode, you can see that now I can go and apply a fill to that. No, a stroke. That's the one. I can apply a stroke to it and adjust the weight. And, you know, it's not perfect. Like I said, it's not as good as the original S, but it's given me a path that I can actually work with. And so I could then go and refine that. So hopefully that trick helps. The other way of doing it is if I grab the original S. Oh, we've got S everywhere right now. Let's sling that over here. Let's change the color because I'm just going to get confused. We'll go with a green. There we go. Green for good. Right. Another way that you could do this is grab a lapel tool. And let's go and pick a different color, something with a bit of contrast. And then what I'm going to do is pen tool this. And I can make sure that the path runs perfectly down the center as well. Let's try not to screw this up, Dan. Oh, you're live. What could go wrong? Everything. So let's do this. My excuse is that I'm doing it quickly. That's the excuse, and I'm going to stick to it. And as you can see, I'm pretty awful with the pen tool, but it's fine because I can just go and fine tune all of this. So you don't have to just adjust. If I click on a point, I can do that and it kind of bends everything. Not ideal. So what we can do is hold down Alt or Option, and then you can just bend that one half. So I could then kind of go and fine tune all of this. And if I was feeling really lazy, I could just select everything, Object, Path, Smooth. We've got the beautiful smooth slider, which will sometimes mess everything up, but sometimes we'll just smooth everything out. And if that doesn't work, we've also got, where are you? The smooth tool itself. and we can just kind of brush over these lines and just smooth out all of those kinks. Thicken it up. And there we go. Actually, that looks pretty decent now that I've added the stroke weight to it. And now I've got that as like an editable stroke, so I can kind of do much more with it. This is my strong hand, indeed. Where do babies come from? They get delivered, don't they, by the stork? Isn't that how it works? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's how babies are made. They express delivery. I watched Dumbo when I was a kid, so you can't fool me. How about showing how to design a 3-panel design for an exhibition stand and how to separate each panel for the printers so that each panel aligns perfectly? Oof, okay. Let's give it a go. Right, let's get rid of all this. Yes. It's been a while since I've done any exhibition stuff. Another disclaimer. Right, okay, let's just kind of get some dimensions. So we'll just say that my exhibition panel is, obviously it's not going to be in pixels, it will be in millimeters, but we'll pretend it's a really, really small exhibition stand. So let's do this with grey. And in fact, what I would probably do actually is I'm going to change the size of the artboard. So if I've got, let's say, an exhibition panel and it's going to be made up of 3 pieces, I want this on, you could either do it on one big artboard or 3 separate artboards and then put them together. It depends entirely how your printer is asking for it. So that's definitely something that is worth having a conversation with, because different printers will have a different kind of setup and a different spec. But yeah, let's go ahead. And I'm just duplicating the artboard with Alt or Option, Shift and dragging. And so I've got my 3 artboards now. And now I've kind of got these set up. I can go ahead and produce my magnificent design. So let's just go ahead and throw something together. Ooh, I've got an idea. I've got an idea. And then that background. It's not going to win any awards, but there you go. And obviously when you're doing gradients, you've got to be careful with gradients and printing in general, because again, it depends on the printing process. Sometimes they can look bad and sometimes they can look good. Sometimes the printer will say don't use gradients or don't do this, and they'll kind of give you that info. Okay, we need a name. So what's the name going to be? I'm very good, Yusuf. How are you? Thank you for joining. Dino, greetings from Jamaica. Hello. Okay, we need a name. We need a name. Let's go and use Gotham again. That was a cracking suggestion. Dansky's live podcast. Okay, all right. I've actually got my font, so let's get that in there. We've got the official logo. Badoom. Dansky's live. Make it a bit bolder. Oh, ultra bold. Yes. Thank you very much. Live podcast. Maybe one day. Doosh. There we go. Not sure what else. What other information? Book tickets now for Wembley. Okay, let's do tickets. Tickets available now to this once in a lifetime podcast. Now, the thing when designing for exhibition banners is it's very easy to design this in Illustrator, the same as vehicle graphics. When you're designing in Illustrator, it's very easy to look at this as just another design. But you've got to think about how it's actually going to be used and how people are going to interact with it. And what I mean by that is if you stand in front of an exhibition banner at an exhibition, a lot of people aren't going to be looking at the lower part down the bottom, especially if someone's up close. So this kind of area up here, at least in my opinion, is kind of the main focal point. It's kind of much more kind of eye height with people that are walking around. If you're tall, you might be up here. If you're short, you'll be down here. But a lot of people aren't going to be looking down here at the very bottom. So just something to bear in mind. I've been to exhibitions before and they've kind of filled the whole space with information, and there's this like small lettering at the bottom, and it's like, yo, no one's going to see that. Let's have a date as well. Let's go 18th. My birthday. Who wants to join me on the podcast? It was your idea, so we're going to go Sir Lalington. Anyone else want to be on the podcast? Raquel. Now, do I put this in a list or do I go horizontal? Because, like I said, we are going quite low now. So let's shimmy that up. Abby Giggle Pickle. Brilliant. Brilliant. We got Abby Giggle Pickle. It's a great name. Okay, let's maybe go horizontal instead. 1, 2, 3. And we can get a bullet point up here as well. No, that doesn't help. Special characters. There we go. I want an individual bullet point. So that's where you will find it if you ever want one. We can just copy that space and paste it there. And again, it definitely helps to kind of either see a similar banner in person or to speak to the printer, because they will typically print these things all day, every day or whatever. So they will probably be able to advise you if something like this text here with people's names on might be a bit too small. And that's something that they'll be able to kind of point out. This is not the worst thing I've ever designed. It's a bit white at the moment. Let's kind of try and mix it up. Throw a color in there. Oh, I do like me some black. Let's go for that. And then I've got that color that I can then drop in down here. In fact, I might do it all that color because there's a bit more contrast here between the names. I can't fit any more on. I mean, we could go on to another layer. Oh, go on then. We'll add some more. We'll add some more. Sakib. Sweetheart. Aga WD. Mohammed. Just put everyone in the stream on here. I'll bring the cake. What's the reason for taking 3 artboards? So these would be the other parts of the panel. Hopefully I understood that correctly, Sir Allington. Is it? Yeah, so this would be an exhibition display, main banner, and then these two would be at the side. So it would kind of look... If I just mock this up very crudely over here... So it might look like something like this in person, and then depending on the size you're going to get printed, you'd have your your person like this. And, oh, hello! Oh, I love your exhibition stand. Oh, thank you very much. Oh. And you could mock this up in Illustrator, but I would personally do it in Photoshop. And you might even find on something like Envato Elements. Actually, let me have a look. Exhibition. Let's see what they've got. Stand. Yeah. So this is what I use for the mock-ups. You could make it yourself, but then they've just got some amazing ones on here. I'd love one that just has 3 panels. Yeah, you can see this one's got like 6 going around a corner. Yeah, something like this actually. Something like this, but with 3 panels. Let's download that. Oh wait, hang on, that's not a mock-up. Ah! Product mock-ups. Photoshop. Okay, let's look for another one. Thing is, because these mock-ups, like, they've been professionally made and they have all the lighting and they glare and they just look super realistic, and you can just basically, what I want to show you is you can just take your artwork, drop it in, and there you go. it's done. Oh yeah, something like this. Okay, I've got different elevations. That's cool. So we've got like different angles in this set. I'll just open these up so you can see. Yeah, so we've got quite a sharp angle there. Slightly less so, and then somewhere there's a front on one. And we've got the shadows all done as well. So let's take our artwork. Obviously, I've not done the side panels, but let's go in here and have a look. So upload your design. Usually these files are very kind of clearly marked. And if you do like the look of Envato Elements, I've got my affiliate link in the stream description. They're just, honestly, they're brilliant. It's one of those subscriptions that I've just never been able to cancel because it's just too useful. So you just drop your design in flat like this, save it, go back here, boom. And you can see it's all kind of just instantly put in there. And you've got like, yeah, there's some subtle lighting effects and things on there as well. And so, you know, if you can find the right mock-up, I could do this angled one, I could do like the flat one for the middle, and then the other angled one for the other side. So you, like I say, you can mock things up in Illustrator, but you just get much more realism in Photoshop. And the good thing about this as well is these are 3 separate artboards. So oh, that looks kind of cool actually. So yeah, the design and the colors, the background, it runs across all of them. So what I could do is go File, Export. Oh wait, where's the export menu? No, not export. Sorry. Save as. Save as PDF. There we go. And then you could just go, you know, your printer will give you a spec here, but just high quality or whatever you like. I haven't actually added bleed, so you would need bleed as well. And your printer will specify how much bleed they want. And where's the range? It's been such a long time. Oh no, sorry. File, save as, PDF. There you go. So this is where you specify the range. So if you want to export artboard 1, 2, or 3, or you could just export all of them. And so let's go ahead and save that. Yeah, marks and bleeds, even though I've not done my bleed. You can convert the colors if you want, but if you've done it all in kind of CMYK and you want to preserve those values, just leave it as is. Save PDF. Because even if it's one banner, typically something like this will be printed and cut in separate pieces and then kind of put together. So let's grab Acrobat. So there you go. You got number 1, number 2, and number 3. So you can design it all together across the 3 artboards, but then when it comes time to export it, you can export it all in one go, and it will export it to those 3 separate pages of the PDF. But again, it depends on the printer, because they might want it all on 1, they might want it on 3. It just depends, so you need to kind of ask them. You passed the challenge. Well done, sir. Hopefully that was helpful anyway. When I designed my first project, I selected the shape builder and then I tried to delete 300 circle shapes and explosion. Yeah, the shape builder tool is great for like intricate stuff, but 300, that's a lot. What are you listening to? Avenged Sevenfold at the moment. Right. So any other questions that I can answer, or any other things you'd like to see, techniques demonstrated, tools? Hmm. Also, if anyone would like a logo, shout out in the chat and we'll just whip something up quickly. See if I still got it. Might be a bit rusty. Hey, you right, James? Clipping masks. My pleasure, sir. Clipping Musco. Right, let's just grab. This is a graphic. Where are you? Yeah, so I'm going to go and place an image in first of all. What do we got? Do. Yeah, so clipping masks are great because you can quite literally define an area and then crop something or mask it out. And all I need for that is a shape. So I could draw the shape with the pencil tool. I could draw a shape with the pen tool. I could use a circle or a rectangle, whatever you like. So if I kind of draw that shape there, I'll give it a color, which just kind of helps me see it a bit more. So this is kind of the mask, essentially. It's a bit different in Photoshop where you kind of brush into masks and whatever. But here I can just select both of these. Just make sure the clipping mask shape is on top and go Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. And what it will do is it will crop everything inside that shape. And to edit the crop, you can double click to go back inside it. You can see up here, we're back inside the clip group. And then I can now adjust the scaling. Whoa, where are you going? Yeah, I can adjust the scaling like this. And I can double click anywhere on the workspace to come back out. And I can still edit the clipping mask itself with the direct selection tool. That's this little bad boy up here. And I can still go and edit this as I would any other path. So let's go and make it weird. There we go. Is that like is that starting to resemble a cat? I'm getting kind of a cat sculpture. You know, like a cat, a bust, like a cat bust. Remove that little lump on his head. Yeah, I'm definitely getting cat vibes. Anyway, yes, so that's how you can actually edit the clipping mask and actually adjust the crop. Or you can select everything, and of course you can see the bounding box is clipped to the content, and then you can just go clipping mask and release it. If everything goes wrong, all else fails, it will give you your shape back, but of course it's just taken the styling away from the shape. So any colors or whatever, they're lost, but you can get them back, and it kind of separates them out. Hi Dansky, do you have any videos on blending modes? Oh, I'd hope so. I would hope so indeed. Yeah, it's probably blending modes are something that I think are probably more applicable in Photoshop. Let me see what I've got. me just see if I can grab some stuff and I'll try and demonstrate blending modes a bit better. What do I need? Snow black background. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we'll just grab that. Okie dokie. Yep, the lights are still on. I was recording a video the other day and the you see the colored lights. Hang on, let me switch the camera. I was recording the other day and you see where are they? The colored lights behind me. As I was recording the video, the lights fell down literally as I was recording. It's hilarious. It's really, really inconvenient. But my goodness, it was very hilarious timing. Here we go. I've got some snow. Let's paste that in. And the reason I wanted to grab this is just to kind of show you how some of the basic blending modes work. Because you can blend one layer into another with blending modes, and you can do it in a million different ways. So you can see I can just select all of these, and all of these do different things. The easiest way to kind of keep it simple is if I've got something with a dark background and I want to remove the dark background and keep, in this case, the snow, so all the lighter areas, what you can do is change the blending mode to some of these in the middle, lighten, screen, and you can see here what it will do is it will remove or blend all the dark areas and keep the lighter areas visible. So if you have rain or snow or any kind of particle effects with a black background and light particles, this is an amazing way to just instantly put particles on top of your design. Now, if I switch that back to normal and invert it, so I do apologize, that's a truck going past outside. So if you have a light background and you have dark content that you want to keep and remove all the white in this case, then use these ones up here. Typically multiply is the one I go with. Linear burn can work as well. So they're both kind of slightly different. I think linear burn's a bit better in this instance. And it removes the light and keeps the dark. So it's kind of the opposite. Do I have a photo? Oh yeah, I've got a photo of my ridiculous face. So let's just, there we go, I've got the thumbnail. Excuse the pixels. Another one that's really useful is soft light and overlay. So overlay is a bit more intense than soft light, but it's great if you want to just brush in some color. So I've set the blending mode to overlay already. And you can see I can brush in some color. So what I might do, for example, is just kind of add like a little bit of glow around the edge, just sort of really kind of subtle. And then I might change it maybe to a purple or a blue. Add a bit more blue there. And then maybe add, I don't know, what should we do? A bit of orange. And you can see the difference here. It just kind of blends that in quite nicely. And soft light is much more subtle. In overlay is a bit more intense. So it definitely depends what you're going for. but those are the ones that I use mainly. Usually it's multiply. I'll show you. Multiply, multiply, lighten or screen. Sometimes color dodge or linear dodge. These are all good in different situations. And then overlay and soft light. They're the kind of main ones. And occasionally hard light can be useful, but as you can see here, it's a bit punchy. Or sometimes, if in doubt, just literally scroll through all of them with your layer selected, and you might find that a blending mode you never normally use is actually quite useful. Quick question. Is it possible to draw your own shape and make it a bounding box for text? And also be able to align the text inside according to the created bounding box? I'm going to have to read that again. Quick question. Is it possible to draw your own shape and make it a bounding box? So what, effectively define a custom bounding box? Is that what you're asking? I think I understand what you're saying. The truck is back. The truck is now reversing. Yay. Sorry, could you reverse a bit quieter, please? Okay. So define a custom bounding box. That is a really good question, because I've got no idea. I know in the latest version of Illustrator, as you can see, you probably saw me moving that around then. What it does is it kind of does... It does snap to the glyphs as well. So in the past, kind of the bounding box of text would be up here. So you can snap and align to the glyphs as well. I think that's, here is it, snap to glyph. So they've added that option down the bottom. But I wonder what happens if I clipping mask this. Yeah, so I've added this in, I've added this with a clipping mask now. And the bounding box of this whole thing is exactly the height of the text. Of course, I can still go in though, and I can change the text. Of course, I'll need to update my clipping mask to accommodate all that nonsense. Yeah, and that's good actually. You can snap the clipping mask. That will snap to the edge of the glyph. So I guess, yeah, if that was what you were asking, James, you can actually come out the group. I've then defined a bounding box for that text by putting it inside a clipping mask. Is that what you were asking? Hopefully it is. Okay. Laws to them. Do you use compound path? Yeah, sometimes. Actually, no, compound paths are very useful. I'll show you a quick example. So compound paths can be very useful indeed if you have multiple shapes that are separate from one another. So if I just create a few splodges like this. Oh, let's make a cloud. Why not? Let's make a lovely cloud. There we go. And we'll just grab the pen tool. There we go. We've got a nice pretty cloud. And if I go down here, and then what I'm going to do is separate these shapes. And you'll see how it behaves differently. So at the moment, I've got all of these shapes. They all touch. If I go and unite these together from the Pathfinder panel, you can see this becomes a single object, and I can then go and apply a gradient, and it will apply it to the whole shape. If I go back and ungroup this so they're separate objects, and I apply that same gradient, it will apply it to, of course, every shape individually. However, if I select all of these individual shapes and I go and unite them together and apply a gradient, it still applies it to all of them individually. And that's because the shapes aren't actually touching. So if I have a bunch of shapes that aren't actually physically connected, but I want the gradient to run through all of them, so it might be letters. You've got a word. There's that lorry again. Thank you. So I have all of these shapes. They're not touching, but I want the gradient to run through all of them. I can turn this into a compound path. And you can see that all of these individual shapes will now be treated as a single path or a compound path. And now the gradient runs through all of them. So if you unite shapes together and they're all touching anyway, it's not going to be a problem. But when things aren't touching, you need to make it a compound path to get the gradient to run through it. Hi, I love using Adobe Illustrator to design magazines, company profiles, rather than InDesign, but do you have any creative ways of placing images? Do you mean in terms of shapes or creative ways to lay out things like magazines or articles, that kind of thing? Damn it, Laurie, we're recording here. We are recording indeed. Hard to truly grasp via text. Like Reese, it's hard for me to grasp a lot of things, whether it's text, in person, being physically shown, all of the above. Yeah, we definitely need a shared whiteboard for sure. Right, what was the question? Creative ways of placing images. Yeah, so I think it's very easy sometimes. Whoa. Steady on, Dan. Cool. Getting a bit excited there. Right. Okay, so when you're like doing design for print or something like that, it can be very easy to kind of run out of ideas, and you've got boxes or circles, and you try and think of creative ways to place images and content. Quite literally, you gotta think outside the box. So if I just kind of have this as my my sheet, my design, my cover. And of course we've got circles. It's very easy sometimes to kind of fall into the same sort of pattern. We've got circles and squares, and it can get a bit boring. So some of the ways that I kind of like to try and mix it up is play around with angles. So you might have an image in the top half there. So the design is kind of, very, very rectangular. So as soon as you introduce an angle, it kind of contrasts against that horizontal and vertical shape, and it makes it look a bit more interesting. And you could even then actually go and place the circle on top of that. and you could scale it up for a slightly more interesting layout, or you could do something like this, shrink it down, and you could have your imagery either top and bottom or actually in the middle. What other interesting layouts are there? We could use a circle, but we could make it much bigger. Oh yeah, this is one I quite like. And let's extend that down. There we go. Let's use the old compound path. Copy and paste rectangle. Clipping mask. There we go. We've got space in the middle for like a cool image. And then you've got space for a logo or a heading up here. And then you've got all your kind of main content. And then your little content down the bottom there. So it's kind of like a sort of 3D kind of carousel, curved screen style, which I quite like. We could, again, you could use circles, but you can display multiple images in them. So we can kind of have them going backwards and getting a bit smaller. Something like this. And you could even make it kind of symmetrical. It depends if your design's going to be more visual or it's going to have like lots of text. What else have we got? We could use a pentagram. Let's bring those sides in. Bring that down. Maybe do something like that. So you could have your image in the top half and then have your content under here. And one more. I mean, I do like full screen, not full screen, full page images and then kind of adding design elements over the top. I mean, something we could try actually to make the rectangle a bit more interesting. Let's try this and see if this will work. Okay. Right, so we'll make it grey. We'll then add a white muck-doodah to the edge. And then I'm going to duplicate it. Make it black. And then send it underneath. I'm going to try and create like a little bit of a Polaroid style effect. So if I go and no. We're going to Gaussian blur this. Obviously that looks terrible with these pixels. So let's go and make this 300 dpi. And I'll need to make it a bit bigger actually, because otherwise it will look shite. And so yeah, we're using the blur to blur the existing shape instead of the drop shadow. So now I can kind of move this around depending on the kind of the angle. And let's bring that in. And what I'm going to try, I'm going to save just in case this doesn't work and it like crashes anything. Let's grab the puppet warp tool. And it's very kindly put 4 pins in the corners. I'm going to try and pull this one out. And push that back in. Something like this. Just so it looks like that bottom right corner is kind of lifting up a little bit. And you can drop the opacity if it's too pronounced, for example. We could even bring that out more. Or we could go and grab the puppet warp tool again and just go and fine tune it like that. So rather than just adding a blanket drop shadow that's equal on all sides, we'll add something like this. And we could even actually do it on the actual rectangle itself. Do you see what I mean? So we're kind of actually adjusting the shape to kind of make it feel a bit more like an actual Polaroid, like a printed photo. And then I'm just adjusting the position of the shadow as well, depending on kind of how the paper is going to sit on the surface. And you know, if you do this a few times and kind of mix it up, this can be quite an interesting way to present images as well. And I've done this many times, you know. Okay, let's copy that. Group everything, paste it on top. And then you can add photographs and things in there and you have like a Polaroid style effect. Yeah, Yusuf, it's basically like kind of, yeah, like I've obviously done this very quickly, but you can do this in Photoshop as well. Photoshop handles shadows a bit better, but you can use it to kind of make it look like the corners of the paper or the card is kind of curled up or lifted off the surface slightly. Whereas when a drop shadow is perfectly consistent around the sides, it looks like the paper's just perfectly flat. Whereas if you have like a Polaroid, it like can curl up, can't it? And so parts of the photo are going to cast a sharper shadow, and other parts that have kind of bent up off the surface, they're going to cast a softer shadow. And that's what I was kind of getting at here. It's much easier in Photoshop. In fact, in Photoshop, you can look at my stupid face. Whoa, no, 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 no. We don't need that many pixels. Yeah. In fact, no, let's use my stupid face. Let's definitely use that because we need a photo, right? So let's actually dump that into this one. There we go. Let's go and add the old white stroke to the inside so we get those nice square edges. Yeah, so drop shadow is very much just, you know, there's that. And it's fine, you know, it makes it consistent. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But for me personally, I love to add a new layer with a black rectangle, send it behind, and then with free transform and command or control, I can pull out one particular corner and I can even go and warp this. So let's kind of actually bend it. So you can see you get much more control over how you sort of bend these corners. So we could even do something like that actually. So it's kind of makes it look like the paper's lifting up at the sides. And how am I going to do that? We could do a tilt shift, which runs horizontally or vertically. So if we rotate this here, You can see the middle much closer to the surface, sharper shadow. The sides, as it kind of goes further out, they blur more. Now we don't want to go too silly with the blur, but blur it enough. And the middle is now too sharp, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to pop a Gaussian blur on top. This will blur the sides more, but then it just captures that middle bit in the blur as well. And I can still go and adjust this. I can kind of move it, play around with it. And I'm going to mask this. And now I want the sides left and right to be less pronounced and a bit more subtle. So I'm just going to mask that away around the edges. And you can see you get something that's just much more kind of realistic in Photoshop. It's easier, and personally I find it a lot more fun as well. You get a much better end result. So let's bring that stroke down. And I mean, if you really kind of want to try and sell the whole kind of curving thing a bit more, we could add a gradient on top of this as well. So this part of the printed photograph that is on a surface, that's going to be closest to the, let's say, table, and then this side and this side, they're kind of curving upwards slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to warp this ever so slightly, just so it isn't perfectly flat. Maybe. No, I'll leave that actually. You can do, but I think I'll leave it for now. What I am going to do is I'm just going to... you can add a gradient overlay. I'm going to brush this in because I love brushing things in Photoshop. So I'm just going to add white. Again, you can use adjustment layers. There's a million different ways to do this. I'm just going to brush down. That's way too intense, but it doesn't matter. Let's get the positioning right. So let's go for 30%. Do one there and there. Then maybe on a separate layer. Do a slightly darker one. And this would be a lot easier with a reference image as well, just to kind of mention that. So you can actually see where the light falls. That's what I would do if I was smart. I'd get a reference image, but you can see the difference there, flat, and then that just introduces like a little bit of kind of a glare of light that would typically come off of a photograph. Can you add a +1 on your left finger and add a glow? We can add a glow to the finger. Yeah, again, you can do it with adjustment layers. I just love using brushes. Yeah, the way I would add a glow is I probably... Oh, let's not start with the blend modes. So what I would do is I would start with a very low opacity, a soft brush, and then press cap locks. This will give you a precise cursor for the brush. Let's position it over there, make it nice and big, and go click once, shrink it down, click, 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 click. So as I'm kind of clicking, I'm just going 10%, make it smaller, 10%, make it smaller, and just kind of staggering it up. And then I can play around with blend modes. And maybe linear dodge is usually pretty good. And I can adjust the hue and saturation if I want to kind of tweak it a little bit. So we could make it a bit more in keeping with the background, and then I can duplicate the layer to make the effect more tense. More tense, more intense. Dansky and his glowing finger. There we go. And we could go and have some glowing eyes as well. No, that doesn't seem to want to work, does it? Hopefully that's helpful. And then I just spilled coffee on the desk. Great job, Dan. Good job. In fact, let's change the background color. And something actually I like to do with backgrounds as well is I think when you have a flat background, if I was doing like a photo on a surface like this, I wouldn't actually just go with a flat color. I would introduce a few different variations on that color. So I'd kind of go darker on one side and then maybe lighter, and then have another dark one. Something like this, and then adjust the lighting angle. So it kind of matches the lighting on the photo, which would be vertical in this case, but I'm not going to match that. I'm going to be cheeky. I do quite like having like the lighting at an angle like that. It can look quite nice. And you can see it just looks a bit more interesting. And we could also actually add noise. I'm getting carried away now. New layer, black, fill, click, filter, noise, add noise, bump it up, Gaussian, monochromatic, soft light, looks horrible, drop it down to like 10%, maybe a bit lower, 5. And it's just a nice way, if you like that kind of noisy, grainy, realistic look, and your background, like if your background looks too clean and you're trying to create something a bit more photorealistic, the same with 3D models. If you add 3D into your work, 3D rendered straight out of something like Blender can look too clean and too perfect. And just by adding a little bit of noise, just a few percent, it can make it a bit more realistic. And here you can see the noise is on the photo and the background, so it kind of ties the two together a bit more. I might even go for 3%. 3% noise, my stupid face. Yeah, so you see if I turn it off and on, it just looks better. I like a bit of noise, me. Yeah. Oh, James put, how about adding noise to the photo? There we go. Done. Someone get Dansky a bike, please. Why is someone getting me a bike? I mean, I'll take a bike. Any tips for reducing banding on gradients? Yes, Paul. So if you want to reduce banding on gradients, I think this will help. So first thing I do, image mode. You want to change it to 16 bits per channel, just not 8. So sometimes just doing that will smooth out all your banding. That's what I usually do, and that can be pretty helpful. Something else you can also try is when you're working with gradients, you have the option to dither, and this kind of, well, it says there, dither to reduce banding. I don't know how to explain it. It kind of shifts pixels around or does something very, very clever, which can kind of help mask and hide the banding a little bit. That's another thing to do. Or you can add noise sometimes, as I've done here, which can kind of help hide banding. And something else you can do is you can also try playing around with blur. So not always ideal, but if you have a gradient and it has a lot of noise, you can try blurring the gradient or the layer, so it then just blends those colors. So it blends those colors together a bit more seamlessly. And I think that that combined with dither and combined with changing the color mode to 16 bits per channel, that can usually fix banding. I went into tutorial mode then. Oh, thank you, Sir Ellington. Good to see you, man. Hopefully see you in the next one. Exactly, Raquel. Yeah, the noise helps to unify it all. It kind of just ties it together a bit more. Right, what time is it? What time are we on? Right. Does anyone have any other questions? I need to go and see my kids at some point. Hey, Annette, do you have any questions? Quick. You've got 2 minutes. Don't worry, we will be streaming much more regularly as well. Now I've got all of the moving out and everything done. We can just get back to some regularly scheduled streams, which will be fun. Hello to your kids. Oh, thank you very much, Daniel. Great name, by the way. Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate the shape builder tool because that is something that I use all the time and it's just super helpful. So let's go back to the cloud example. So for the shape builder tool, it's perfect for like combining different shapes together. So if I go and create a cloud, we're going to create that lovely cloud again. There we go. Shrink it down. And I use this all the time. If I'm creating shapes like this, you can see this it obviously looks awful, but we've created the basic shape of a cloud. And so now I can select everything. And then I've got the shape builder tool over here. If you don't see it, it's probably hiding underneath the live paint bucket tool, your cheeky tool there. And let's click on that. And what I can do is actually click and drag. And you can see these areas become highlighted in red. And then if I let go of the mouse, it will combine those all into one shape instantly. Now, conversely, what we can also do is hold down Alt or Option, and you'll see the plus changes to a minus. And I can now click and drag through, and it will actually knock out those areas and subtract them. Or as well as dragging, I can just single click on an area. Oops, my hand slipped there. I can single click on an area to remove it, but you can also do it on paths as well. So if I want to remove all of those and then combine these and then remove that, as you can see, it makes it very quick and easy to kind of intricately combine shapes together. Very useful tool. I'm about to make eggs and bacon. Nice. I've had my food for today. Ah, fantastic. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm going to try and stream again tomorrow. I've got Leo with me, so we'll see how things go. But yeah, definitely from next week, we're going to just get back to doing something a bit more regular, which will be fun. So yeah, if no one's got any more questions, I'm going to go and see my kids and have a lovely evening, and I'll speak to you soon. Hi, Stephanie. Bye, Stephanie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to another one as well. Cool. Right. Catch you later, guys. Have a good one. Yes, James, you're absolutely right. We didn't have a segue. Super quick segue. Here's my Adobe Illustrator masterclass. It teaches everything I know about Adobe Illustrator in about 6 to 7 hours. I've been learning Illustrator for 17 years. I spent a long time making this. Yeah, check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it.